First, I'd like to start it with a story. It's about Mr. Jahangar. He is a farmer who lives in Bangladesh. And just a few years ago, the water in his village tasted sweet, but recently it's become a lot more salty. This is significant because his sole source of income, like most people in Bangladesh, he lives on about $1 per day, and his sole source of income is derived from growing deep water rice in rice paddies. And this rice relies on fresh water. And recently, the water has become so salty they can actually see white salt flakes in the water, and this is damaging the rice, and they're growing so poorly that they can no longer make any profit. And so, he's 62 years old, and he's a father of 6 children. And if he is unable to find a new type of crop or something to make income, his whole family will perish. And he has no idea why this is happening. He doesn't know why it's getting more salty. He thinks he's cursed by God because he's not pious enough. But the truth of the matter is that the developed countries like the US, very rich countries, they're producing lots of greenhouse gases. And this is causing global warming, which causes the ice around the world, including the polar ice caps, to melt, which causes sea levels to rise. Because of this, the sea levels are rising, and Bangladesh is extremely low, so their entire water supply is being contaminated by the salt water. You can see about the last couple 100,000 years here. And you see the graph here? It shows the graph that's showing the correlation between the temperature and degrees centigrade and atmospheric carbon dioxide. You can see they have a pretty close relationship. And you notice CO2, which is the red line, never goes above this gray CO2 line right here. But this is current. You can see CO2 levels have gone way up, they've spiked. And this causing lots of climate change. Even though the temperature is still within normal ranges, it's actually not as high as it has been. It's been higher before, but the CO2 has gone way up. And this is why this is happening. It's because you can see here, this is a graph showing population. Right now, this is current, and you see about 6.5 billion people. But the population, you can see, is growing exponentially, and so is the standard of living. Even though about 90% of the world lives on $1 per day, and a small percentage lives at a very high standard of living, this small percentage of the world emits huge amounts of greenhouse gases because we consume far more resources. Here are some other challenges that people like Mr. Jahangar, they face on a daily basis. These droughts, sewage, often due to poor sanitation, and deforestation. This happens because people need to cut down trees, maybe to grow. These take a very long time to grow, and then they cut them down to burn so they can cook food. Also, because they want to make way for other crops, such as corn, which is used in ethanol. This brings far more profit, but the problem is that this crop is no longer being used as food, and this can cause food shortage. What if there's a system that could address all of these problems? And what if it used algae? Well, I think I've invented, this is my invention, I think I've addressed just this, all of the following problems that I have explained. This shows the Versatile System 2.0, what I won the award for. Basically, it's a complete system, so it's lots of different existing technologies that are stuck together so that it creates a lot less waste. He can put in food scraps, just from after eating any food scraps he has, anything with starch, in the anaerobic digester. There's 2 of these. The other one takes care of latrine waste, either from cow manure or anything else like from the latrine. And also this absorbs atmospheric carbon dioxide. And he also can add salt water. And out of this he gets fuel. He gets methane for cooking, and this system also has a stove in it. And when he cooks with this methane, the CO2 is vented from the stoves back into the algae tanks, where it's sequestered by the algae. The anaerobic digesters also create an effluent water. After they've digested the food scraps that you put in there, there's a bit of liquid still in there that's very rich in nutrients, and this goes back into the algae where it serves as nutrients. So they can also use this as a fertilizer. After the nutrients go to the algae, that liquid can also be used as a fertilizer for crops. So he gets all kinds of things. He gets fuel, he gets food from the algae. You can use the algae. There's in the diagram here, you can see there are 2 algae tanks. One takes care of the food scraps and the other one takes care of the latrine waste and cow manure. And so the LG tank takes care of, this is the second one, it takes care of only the food scraps, and the nutrients that it gets are from the food scraps anaerobic digester. So it's a lot cleaner, and this algae is clean enough that they can use it for food stock, either for maybe fish or animals or for people. And so maybe a lot of times they can't afford to buy livestock because it just costs far too much to feed them. So it's a complete system for providing food, fuel, fertilizer, and it does not need fresh water. And one of the best things is that it does not emit any greenhouse gases. Also, it does not compete with any other food sources for arable lands. So imagine how Mr. Jahangar feels. He has no idea why this is happening, why their salinity is rising. And he thinks he's cursed by God because he's not pious enough. But the truth is that the developed countries are creating lots of CO2, causing global warming, and causing all kinds of climate change. And so imagine how he feels. He's a father of 6, he's 62 years old. So if you're in the United States, he'd probably be retiring about now. But he probably feels like he's failed as a father, and he's blaming himself. But that's not really the truth. That's not why it's happening to him. And I feel that I'm called, I need to help these people like this. Because I live in a rich country, and I have a personal responsibility to help Mr. Jahangar, and also the millions of others like him who are harmed by our wasteful ways. Thank you.